Now we can tell you that what is your biological age, what is your cognitive health, what's your heart health, what's your oral health, what's your gut health, what's your immune health, what is your mitochondrial health. We have now analyzed 1 million samples.
Wow.
We have now analyzed 100 quadrillion biological data point. First of all, what we are learning is that your gut is not somehow isolated from your body, right?
Yeah.
We have this digestive tube that goes all the way from our top of the digestive tube, our mouth, and all the way at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And then everything around you. So your environment and what you actually in your oral microbiome, they all are communicating.
I am so excited to have Naveen Jain of Viome today with me because we're going to talk all about what it is that the gut microbiome does, why it's important to look at good bacteria and bad bacteria, and why personalized nutrition may be the nutrition of the future, and all of the science that goes behind it. So thank you so much for being here, Naveen.
First of all, Amy, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be with you. And I watch every one of your Instagram wisdom every day. And I think you are an absolute goddess of nutrition.
I'm so grateful for you. What I love to do is try to take complicated subjects and talk a little more deeper about it. So that's why I think it's good for us to talk today. So tell us a little bit about who you are, first of all, because I think a lot of people might have seen you online or might have heard of you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself and your journey just in a short way.
Well, Amy, it's hate talking about myself. So think of me, I'm an entrepreneur, really, in this part of my life, in my, this decade of my life, I'm focused on improving the health of humanity. And I really hope that by understanding exactly what is happening inside the human body, will be able to understand what causes people to have these chronic diseases, which we name them, and hoping if we can name them, we can tame them, right? So whether we call them diabetes, whether we call them heart disease or cancer or aging or anything, for example, could be, Alzheimer, Parkinson's, it's scary stuff. But at the end of the day, what we do know is that chronic inflammation causes chronic diseases. But what's really important to understand is that what causes the chronic inflammation in each person is a very, very different thing. So this idea and a myth that we have that somehow there are healthy foods and there are unhealthy foods. We have not figured out so far ever that there is any universal healthy food. It doesn't matter what food you look at. However, there are universally unhealthy foods. So that is absolutely true. There are certain foods that are universally unhealthy, but there is no such thing as universal healthy food. And
What
as we
are
go along
some
in a conversation, I'm going to tell you about what is it that we're learning about these foods.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask you. Like, what are some of the universally unhealthy foods? The foods that are unhealthy for just about everyone.
So I would say, sugar. Anything you are eating sugar, that means processed foods, added sugar, fried foods, just it's bad for everyone. I don't care what anyone tells you, these foods are good for nobody. So extra processed foods, and even this idea of somehow that, there are some people who can eat these fried foods. There is no human body that's actually is good for that, right? Now, when it comes to healthy foods, it turns out there is nothing that's healthy. So, for example, is spinach. Despite the Popeye telling us that spinach is good for everyone, I can tell you that 45% of the people are harmed by spinach or even things like almonds, which are very high in oxalates. And if your oxalates are not being degraded or metabolized by your gut microbiome, these foods actually cause a tremendous harm, including kidney stone. Right? Same thing that everyone tells you, eat your broccoli. Well, guess what? Almost 47% of the people are harmed by broccoli because they have very high in sulfate. These crucifix vegetables have high sulfate. That means if your microbiome is producing already a lot of sulfide, which is highly inflammatory, then you should be eating broccoli because they're going to increase more inflammation. Avocado. People say avocado is a superfood. It's got to be good for everyone. Well, guess what? Every one of us who has high uric acid production, the last thing you want to do is to eat avocado, which is very high uric acid. And if you eat avocado with a high uric acid production, you're going to end up getting gout, right? Now, people say about protein. I want to build muscles. I got to
Mhm.
be eating a lot of protein. And
Mhm.
the more protein, the better. Even the trainer talk about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of your body weight. And what we saw is that most people cannot digest that much protein. So if your protein is being fermented by your microbiome, by looking at your protein fermentation score, because that causes you to release putrescin and ammonia, that causes a tremendous amount of inflammation. You have to either reduce the protein or take a digestive enzyme with your protein so you can digest it. And that's some of the things that we learn by actually analyzing the human body. And then I'm going to tell you about exactly what is it that we do that allows us to be so precise about each individual, what they should eat or not eat.
Yeah, please tell us that, because I think that's the next step is like, okay, so how do we find out?
Yes. So, Amy, first thing is don't ever guess. You have to test, right? And when you're testing, what I find is that a lot of the companies, when they have a hammer, they think everything looks like a nail. If I can just do the blood test and get 100 biomarkers, guess what? I can tell you everything. Some people say, well, if I can just look at the 10 methylation marker, I can tell you everything. Some people say, if I can just do just this test, I'll tell you everything. And what we realize is that is actually human body is so complex. You can't look at 10 things, 100 things, 500 things and make anything out of it. So what we do at Viome is when you order this thing called Viome Full Body Intelligence Test, what happens is inside this, Amy, there are, first of all, this is our mission from day one. Imagine a world where
Mm,
illness is optional.
love that.
You open this nice, beautiful box. Inside that, there are 3 tests: a saliva test, a stool test, and a blood test. So, and then your prepaid envelope. So you give us a spit of your saliva, and then you give us a finger prick blood, 4 drops of your blood, and a touch of your stool. And now we are analyzing 100 million. Let me repeat, 100 million transcripts of biomarkers in your saliva, blood, and stool. That means when I look at the saliva, I'm analyzing all of the oral microbial gene expression, all of the human gene expression. I'm going to come back and explain what I mean by that. Similarly, when we're analyzing stool, we're looking at all of the gut microbial gene expression, all of the epithelial cells that are shedding in the stool. In the finger prick blood, we're analyzing all of your mitochondria. So that means all the mitochondrial gene expression and all of what I call immune transcript. That means cytokines that you and I both know. So all the interleukins, so that tells you are they inflammatory or anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory. Now, taking all of those biomarkers, we can tell you that what is your biological age, what is your cognitive health, what's your heart health, what's your oral health, what's your gut health, what's your immune health, what is your mitochondrial health. And if you say, no, 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 talk really nerdy to me, great. Here's your putrescin production, here's your LPS production, here's your uric acid production, here's your sulfide production. And then we say, okay, based on all the things we analyze, don't eat, as I mentioned to you, avocado or broccoli or spinach or all these foods, but you can eat red meat if you want, because even though I'm a vegetarian, I am not the person who says, hey, that's the only way to live. In fact, it turns out what surprised me, 45% of the people are actually red meat is good for them. And the reason for that is it's very highly nutritious, but it does have high choline and high carnitine. And if these choline and carnitine is not being converted by your gut
Mhm.
microbes into something called TMA, trimethylamine, which gets absorbed in the blood, and then your liver actually uses an enzyme called FMO3 to convert the TMA, and by oxidating it, it becomes TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, which is what causes the plaque in the arteries, which is what causes the heart disease. So now, if we can see that your TMA production is low and your oral microbes are not producing gingivitin, which is P. gingivitis, and that means your FMO3 production is low, we can say you can eat red meat safely, but don't take vitamin B5 with that, because vitamin B5 increases the production of FMO3, right? So we are able to now tell you very precisely what foods to eat and why, what foods not to eat and why. And then we go a step further, Amy. So we said, look, now that we looked at these foods that you can't eat, so for example, you can't eat strawberry because your histamine reaction is high, even though it contains some good things like fisetin. So what we do is say, all right, we're going to take fisetin from the strawberry and put that in your supplement list, right? So now we can say, hey, every day, make sure you take 18 milligram of fisetin, take 22 milligram of elderberry, take 19 milligram of a lycopene, take 89 milligram of amylase. That means we walk you through every vitamin, mineral, herbs, digestive enzyme, food extract, amino acids, and then we create the custom capsules for you and you only every month. That means there is no pre-made capsule, there is no pre-made formula. Every single person, every month, we custom make it for them. So this is for me, Amy. Not only it says manufactured on, not expires on. It was made for me 10 days ago. Every month I get this thing that's made just for me. In addition to that, I also get my Viome gut formula. They say VRX, Viome prescription MyBiotics gut formula. It has all of the prebiotic, probiotic, postbiotics, everything that I need for my gut. And then we make the oral lozenges, and you can see this made for me. It has all of the postbiotics, enzymes, essential oils that you need. And then we even have personalized toothpaste. So these are for morning and evening. The morning toothpaste has ingredient that removes the plaque on contact rather than scrubbing with a sand. It removes the plaque on contact, reduces the gum inflammation, and the evening one has actually all of the postbiotics, enzymes, and essential oils that adjust your oral microbiome so that your oral microbiome is actually now healthy. When you have a poor oral health, it impacts your diabetes, it impacts your heart health, it impacts your sexual health, it impacts your brain health. And there's so many diseases because at the end of the day, if you have inflammation in your gum become leaky gums, and now the bacteria are going in your blood causing inflammation, just like the leaky gut, the gut permeability. And that's the key, is to understand that our digestive tube that is tight junctions, if somehow those junctions are broken because of inflammation, then you have a chronic inflammation coming in. One of the reason, Amy, why most people have not benefited from gut microbiome test in the past is that every company other than Viome simply tells you what organisms are in your gut or what organisms are in your mouth. The problem is we have created this idea that organisms are good or bad. Well, it turns out it is not the organisms they have good or bad. It is their behavior could be good or bad. Same organism can be good or bad. For example, there is an organism called Akkermansia mucin. Everybody knows it. Some people are taking it as a probiotic. It is one of the most dangerous organisms you can find, because when it is in a good environment, it actually takes the fiber and produces the butyrate for you, which is very, very good for you. In other environment, it actually produces toxins that causes you to develop MS. The reason people don't understand the Akkermansia mucin, the mucin means lover of mucin. If it doesn't get the right food, it is going to eat your mucin. That means it is the protection layer between gut microbiome and your immune system and the blood. So that barrier, once your mucin goes away, now the barrier has gone, and now the bacteria can easily flow through into the blood. So same thing with the P. gingivitis. People think it's a bad bacteria. No. 84% of the people have P. gingivitis. Only 16% will ever develop a periodontitis, only when the P. gingivitis expresses ginger pain. And ginger pain is what causes you to develop gum inflammation. So what we do at Viome is not look for just what the organisms are. We're looking at what is it they are doing. Are they doing good things or they're doing bad things? What can we feed them so they can do good things? What can we take away so they can actually not do the bad things, right? So our whole thing is by looking at RNA, which is the gene expression. And
Mhm.
Amy, I'm not preaching to the choir, but this is for everyone but you, which is most people don't understand that your genes are not your destiny. Your genes don't change. So if you do my DNA test today and I gain 200 pounds, my DNA is still the same. Now, if I become diabetic, my DNA hasn't changed. If I become depressed, my DNA hasn't changed. If I now get heart disease, my DNA doesn't change. In fact, even after I die, and you do my DNA test 100 years after I die, my DNA still hasn't changed. We can look at DNA of dinosaurs. So if
Mhm.
DNA can't even tell you you're dead or alive, how will
Mhm.
it ever tell you you're
Mhm.
healthier or sicker? And
Mhm.
what's constantly changing is your gene expression.
Mhm.
This is Viome is the only company in the world that actually measures gene expression. And Amy, we have now analyzed 1 million samples.
Wow.
We have now analyzed 100 quadrillion biological data point.
Wow.
And using all of that with AI, we are able to now understand exactly what is making people sick. In fact, we published multiple paper. A paper we just published recently that shows when we see that your GABA production in your gut is low, or your methanogenesis or methane production is high, it is the number one predictor of developing IBS and IBD. So
Wow.
if you have low GABA production, high methanogenesis, we can predict you have IBS-C, IBS-D, IBS-M, or you're going to be developing IBD, which
So
is
people can find
autonomous.
it earlier than if
Very
they were
early,
dead.
right?
Yeah.
In fact, now our once you do a test, we can go through all your scores and tell you that now, depending on the things that are not good, your risk of developing, for example, chronic fatigue syndrome is going up. And here are the scores that are contributing to it. And here is what you can do to improve these scores so you can reduce your risk of developing these diseases. So every single thing. So once you do a test, it shows you here are your scores, here are your health connections. That means here are the reasons why you have a higher risk of developing it. If you tell us, for example, you have constipation, we can now tell you here are the 8 reasons why you have constipation, and here's how you to fix it. So
Mhm.
most tests can only tell you what is happening. We tell you what is happening, what's the root cause of why it is happening, and what are the things you can do in terms of food and supplements to actually improve that, right? And that's the biggest difference between what Viome does and anything else out there.
How often do you recommend that people, like, say they get their
Mhm.
testing, they start to make the changes? When do
Yeah.
they test again?
So every 6 months, we publish the paper that
Okay.
shows within 6 months, your microbial activity significantly changes in 6 months. And we
Mhm.
recommend you do a test every 6 months. And Amy, what you'll be really proud of us, what we have done is, unlike most companies, we are very scientifically driven. So we did a double-blinded, placebo-controlled studies that shows, for example, people who had IBS-C, which is constipation, we gave them a half the group, we gave them the precision nutrition, other half we gave them the placebo. And we saw the 64% of the people that had constipation within 90 days, they became healthy compared to 10% of the people on placebo, right?
Wow.
Same thing with the diabetes. People who had pre-diabetes 5.8, they actually came down to 5.35 within 90 days, and the fasting insulin dropped by 25%. Depression, PHQ-9 score down by 50%. Anxiety, GAD-7 score down by 47%.
This is when people follow all the recommendations
That is
that are
correct.
given. Okay.
Yeah,
So they have to, because I can understand that, sometimes when people get these reports, they might
yeah.
not be 100% compliant.
Mhm.
But so in this study, are they like people who are following basically all the protocol?
So what they're doing is they are actually what I would say, no one ever does
Yeah.
100%.
That's what,
But
yeah.
Amy, what happens if we tell you these are the foods to avoid, and you
Yes.
mostly avoid them. So
Yeah.
body doesn't say that, oh, you took that food, now you committed a sin. I'm now going to no
Yes.
longer
Yeah. Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
forgive you, right? So
Yeah.
body is very, very resilient as
Yes.
long as you're not torturing your body with the
Yeah.
thing that causes inflammation. That means if we say avoid food, and if you ate it once, it's not like, oh, that now you're dead, right? So
Yes.
point is, as long as you mostly follow the food advice, take your supplements and oral lozenges and the toothpaste and the biotics every day. That is really what we saw. In fact, we also published the research in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine that shows that all these four, diabetes, depression, anxiety, and IBS, all four of them had a significant improvement of over 35% on each of them.
Wow. So depression, diabetes, IBD, what was the fourth one?
IBS and anxiety.
IBS and anxiety.
And
So these
yeah,
are the main, some of the main drivers of, you know, people's complaints these
I
days.
mean,
It's like
think about
that's,
IBS is 15% of the people suffer from IBS. I mean, this is such a
yeah.
big deal. And there is no cure, and people can diagnose. You go to a doctor and they say, oh, just take some painkiller, you're totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. 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 No, this is huge. So what is, kind of coming up now, some of the research that has not yet been published, what is upcoming in that
Oh my
world
God.
of personalized nutrition and gut health?
So I think there's a lot of good stuff here, Amy. So first of all, what we are learning is that your gut is not somehow isolated from your body, right?
Yeah.
We have this digestive tube that goes all the way from our top of the digestive tube, our mouth, and all the way at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And then everything around you. So your environment and what you actually in your oral microbiome, they all are communicating. So for example, the Fusobacterium nucleatum is an oral microbiome, and it's actually it's a predictor of colorectal cancer and IBD, even though it's an oral microbiome, because we are swallowing 1.5 liters of saliva every day. And
Yeah.
some of the people who take a lot of the antacid, what happens is when you're taking Nexium or any type of antacid drug, these now you don't have acidity in your stomach. So these microbes are now able to actually get into the gut rather than getting killed in the acidity. And now they settle in the gut where they don't belong. Right. And
Mm.
then now you have a microbial war going on. And then when these guys win, because you somehow are eating the wrong diet, or
Mhm.
unfortunately, if you end up taking antibiotics, these
Mhm.
guys now actually start to colonize. Right.
Mm.
And that's when you start to develop all types of chronic diseases. So one thing that we're doing is we are now developing early cancer detection tests, because now we have 100 quadrillion biological data point and all of the metadata, that means diseases people have, the symptoms they have, or the drugs they are taking. Based on that, we were able to now detect stage 1 cancer in your mouth or throat with 95% specificity, 90% sensitivity, and we sell that test as an oral cancer test or oral health
Wow.
probe with cancer detect. Interestingly, we got FDA breakthrough device designation on that. It is that good, right?
Wow.
And
So is
so
that
that
available
it
to,
is available. You can go
okay.
to Viome.com and order it, and a telehealth provider would actually offer it to you.
Yeah.
We are now developing a test for IBD, which is Crohn colitis, and it can differentiate between IBS or Crohn or colitis. We are now validating a test for colon polyps, which is 7 to 10 years before you develop a colon cancer. Think about that. Once we
How,
can
how,
detect colon polyps,
how
please
are
go ahead.
you able to, detect that? What is
But
the
a stool
stool
test,
test?
and by looking at the RNA, see the problem in the cancer detection and other diseases have been is that other companies like Grail, when they do
Mm-hmm.
the cancer detection, they're looking for cell-free DNA. That
Yeah.
means your tumor has to shed the DNA, and
Yeah.
unless it is big enough to actually shed enough DNA for you to detect it, and they're really good at stage 3 and stage 4, but for stage 1, there is not enough cell-free DNA, so they can't. So sensitivity for Grail for most cancer for stage 1 is 27%.
Mhm.
Ours was 90% for oral cancer and throat cancer. And the reason is your RNA or gene expression, which is
Mhm.
biochemical environment, changes very, very early that you can
Yeah.
detect.
So that's the reason you can get it earlier than a
Yes,
typical test.
exactly,
And then same thing with the stool. It's like the
exactly,
shedding of the RNA that you're looking at.
exactly.
That is
Yes.
so interesting. Is the stool one available also or
No,
not
not
yet?
we finished the test. We are going to be selling it through the doctors and physicians and offering it through telehealth to the things. And that is going to be coming out. You're asking me next, probably in the next 3 to 4 months, that will be our next test.
Wow, very exciting. So I guess to just shift gears, I'd love to know, I know you're a very busy entrepreneur. You do all of these. How do you follow these health recommendations? What does your daily routine look like?
Amy, we all have different daily routines. And even if I follow your daily routine, I'm never going to be
Yes.
brilliant like Amy, right?
Yeah.
So I think I just want people to know learning about how people think is what makes you great. So
Yes.
Amy is awesome how she thinks, not
Yeah.
because you can say, I'm going to walk just like Amy, I'm going to talk
Yeah.
like Amy, and I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
everything that Amy does. But guess what? You're not going to become Amy, right? And
Yes.
that's the key is, so for me, what really is good for me. And this is the thing that, Amy, I want people to understand. Even when people look at people like Brian Johnson, this I spent
Mhm.
$2 million. This is what
Mhm.
I do. Now you
Mhm.
can do everything that Brian does. It may not work for you at all because you're not Brian. His gut microbes are different, oral microbes are different, his gene expressions are different. So something that works for him may actually be harming you. And
Yeah.
that's the key. So, but generally, my advice to everyone is find out that there are 5 things you have to do to stay healthy and live longer. Number one is eat the right food for your
Mhm.
gene expression, right?
Mhm.
What your gut microbes are doing, right?
Mhm.
So do the Viome test, understand exactly what foods are healthy for you,
Mhm.
get the right supplements. Don't think that more the merrier. That means the more supplements I take, the better it is.
Mhm.
In fact, more supplements harm you because your body has to get rid of them. And in
Mhm.
fact, that's harmful. So know exactly what you need and don't take anything extra, which is the key. Key is precision nutrition. Number
Mhm.
two, reduce the stress. Because when you
Mhm.
have a stress in your body, Amy, you know that you go into fight or flight response. That means now you are in a sympathetic mode and body shuts down what it considered non-essential system. Your digestive system. Don't worry about digesting your food. You're about to be a
Yep.
lunch for tiger, right?
Yep.
Your immune system actually don't care about your immune system right now. Just run away or fight, right? So point is when you're stressed, you have a lot of these things. That means learning to have be gratitude, learning to not have stress, doing the meditation, getting rid of the root cause. So if it is your work that's causing you stress, leave your work. And unfortunately, if your spouse is causing you stress, well, you know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Point
It's
is,
but I think it's easier said than done for so many people. I think
yeah,
a lot of us, a lot of people are watching or listening. They
yeah.
might be like, yes, I'm stressed, but I don't
Mhm.
know what I'm supposed to be doing to relieve my gut, relieve my gut brain connection from that feeling of danger. And so I think, giving, I guess it's different for everyone.
But I think partly it is here and partly in the gut. Gut and brain
Yes.
are connected. So when you think you are in danger
Mm-hmm.
because your boss said something and you think you might lose your job, and
Mm-hmm.
now that has nothing to do with nutrition. The trick is mindset, understanding, and this is something, Amy, you will understand. Going back to the basic principle of your job is simply the actions, the karma. Let the take action. There are only 2 types of things in this world: things that are in your control and the things that are not in your control. If the
Mm-hmm.
things are not in your control, you simply say it is what it is and it is going to be what's going to be, right? When
Mm-hmm.
the things are in your control, you do the best you can, and it is what it is and it's going to be what's it going to be, right? So learning to have that Eastern philosophy, and 99% of the time, the things that stress you today, 10 years from now, when you look back and you're going to say, really? What was I stressed about? And even the things that looks really, really bad today, it may turn out to be the best thing. How many times we ever had breakup when we were teenager and we thought that was the end of life? And you
Mm-hmm.
look back and say, oh my God, what a nightmare I
Yeah.
have avoided.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's it's a really good point for us to talk. I'm glad we talked about it a little more because I think
Yeah,
everybody knows that they're feeling stressed. So the nutrition portion,
yeah,
this is really something I think personalized nutrition is definitely something that everyone's starting to embrace more, and to realize like you don't have to follow what your favorite influencer, Instagram star is doing for
Yep.
their diet. Find out what's good for you. Just like in life in general, like find what works for you and do that rather than following what everybody else is doing. Okay, another a shift. I know you counsel a lot of entrepreneurs on their journey,
Yes.
or coach them. And tell us more about why you do that, and what are some of the tips that you would give someone who is just in the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey?
Oh my God, Amy, we need a whole lot more time for that. But basic thing is really about is do something that helps the humanity live better. So if you're going to be doing something, ask yourself, if you are successful, how many people's life is going to be better because of the things you're doing? It's not because you're philanthropic. That is the most capitalist thing to do. It
Mm-hmm.
is because if you can build any product or any service that helps people live better life, you actually now have a product that people want. So if you can
Yes.
build something that can help 1 billion people live a better life, you can create $100 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
never wake up in the morning and say, what should I do to create $100 billion company?
Mm-hmm.
Making money is simply a byproduct of doing things that improve people's life. In other words, if you're young and listening to this, making money is like having an orgasm. If you focus on it, you're never going to get it. So just
Mm-hmm.
enjoy
Mm-hmm.
the process.
Got it. Okay, and then you do a lot of speaking and travel, and and I think you are coaching a lot of entrepreneurs as well on this, helping
It
them with
happens
their.
honestly. I probably get 10 calls a week, and I just what I can do, I just do them. I help them because I really think helping entrepreneurs is the best thing you can ever do, because every entrepreneur is solving a problem, and if they succeed, your family is going to be better off because of them. So if I'm always think that helping an entrepreneur actually succeed is the highest leverage you have for benefiting the humanity.
That is so beautiful. I love that. What is the future? How do people get in touch with more about Biome? First of all,
Yeah.
how do they get the tests? I am taking my own test. I'm going to be taking everyone through the journey of that, because I think it's really I think people are interested in like, how does it work? Like, how do you take it?
Yeah.
How do you do it? What are the results look like? So I think that will be really useful. So how did they get more information? How do they get more information about the science? How do they learn more about you? All of that.
So, Amy, first of all, you can go to Viome.com, V as in Victor, IOME.com. You can order a test called Full Body Intelligence Test. You can find me on any social media. Find me on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn. You can also go to naveenjain.com and you can find more about me. And you can reach out to me almost on any social media. I'm always available, always responding, and I'm always happy to help anyone who needs any help.
I mean, do you even sleep? How do you do all this?
So I work 16-hour days, Amy, 7 days a week, and I just love life. I mean, God has been so kind to us. We don't really have to do anything. So I work so hard because I really think this is my way of giving back to the humanity. Because I came to this country with nothing, $5 in my pocket, just like any other immigrant, and God has given us so much. And I really think, to me, this is my way of paying back my debt to the society, to do things that actually help improve the health of humanity.
That is so inspiring. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed getting to know more about Biome. I really love the science behind it. I love that there is almost like a futuristic feel to it, but there's also science. I think that's like the good combination. Like I think everyone loves to know more about AI and the future, but the fact that you're saying that there's all these studies that you have done and that continue to be done, I think that really differentiates that.
And Amy, everything on our app, when you do the test in our app, every single thing we tell you why and what's the science paper behind it. So literally every single link we make and say, this increases your chance of CFS. Here is a science paper for it. If we say don't eat broccoli because of this, here's a science paper behind it. Literally every single thing, there's bar none. We always show you the primary literature that we use to actually make that decision. And we do that all using AI. right? And that's the
Wow.
beauty of it. You can go see viome.com/publications, and you can see all of our science papers that we have published. But literally, whether it's our own paper or whether it is someone other research, other academia that has published the paper, we show you exactly what we use to make the decision that we're telling you.
That is awesome. I think that's kind of what we want to know, all of
Yeah,
us nowadays, we want to know, like, why is it that we are
yeah.
doing what we're doing? So really appreciate it. I'm excited to take everyone through the journey. I think probably over the next couple of weeks, I'll be sharing my results and my test process, because I think it demystifies it for people. Like,
Yes.
what is it? How does
Okay.
it work? And then we'll talk about the science too. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy. You have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to take care of. So I appreciate the time, and I hope I will be seeing you in person soon.
Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate you and really looking forward to seeing the episode. Thank you. Take
All
care of
right,
yourself.
great. Take
Bye bye.
care. Bye-bye.